With the undisputed title of the strongest region in the ALGS, the Pro League qualifier competition has proven to be no different in North America, and with several teams from last week's finals failing to make this one, even some like Redeem failing to make day number 2 and Drop In Gaming not even making semifinals. But what if I told you it was a squad that didn't even make semifinals last week who were able to lock it in and secure their spot? Let's get down and do what it do. PLQ number 2, TLDR North American Edition. And just like we talked about in our last video in regards to EMEA, with the amount of teams returning to the finals in week number 2, performance is going to matter now more than ever. And it felt like the players definitely realized that. No one really overextending in game number 1 and a lot of teams playing patient. And in our final zone, we would have 4 full squads and 1 solo Rat and Chaotic from GKS. And while Unleash had the high ground on that far side of the zone, being on that far side of the zone would mean that they would have the most distance to cover on the final rotation and what felt like would be all eyes on them. But as a duo, able to stay behind their dark veil as they saw the Denver Thuggets go out. But it would end up being S2, sitting on top of their building, able to poke and prod at the final fights from a distance, and then being able to move in, taking on a 3v2 versus Pen 5 and taking home game number 1.
GKS do go down. The points well and secured by Chaotic are going to do them good. S2 move in from the top of their own building, hoping to take down Pen 5 in a 3v2 situation. They should be able to. Hambino's done some amazing work, but against 3, what can you do? S2 take game 1.
But everyone would notice that it wasn't necessarily a big game from S2, and Pen 5 in second place only sitting at 13 points would mean that there would actually be quite a few teams sitting not too far behind them in that 9 to 7 point range. But then in game number 2, it was Evolution starting off with a hot hand, pushing into Cenote Cave and cleaning up the contest between boys and tripods, paying the tripods back for the third party in Mill just 1 game prior. And then we would see both Pen 5 and S2 going out, only adding 3 and 1 points to their totals respectively, meaning that the door would be open for someone to step up and try and shoot themselves up the scoreboard. And Evolution would do just that, starting off in the northeastern part of the zone, able to overtake the building that was housing Team Smiley, which would give them a rotation towards that final zone, and then would be one of the last squads left alive in a 3v3 against Gucky.
My Thuggets!
Your Thuggets!
Still have a numbers advantage. Dan Mantic clutches up for the squad. Smoke on the other side as Evolution attempts to move in for the third party. Donut Shop are down. Gucky are on the other side. This fight has become everyone's problem, and the Denver Thuggets make a delicious sandwich. With Gucky having gone down, numbers advantage belongs to Evolution. Vermilion doesn't have the health to stand out by this rock. There's no cover. There's no place to hide. Evolution take game 2.
Moving Evolution up into that first place at 27 points, S2 who won game number 1, sitting in second, only 1 point ahead of the Denver Thuggets. Probably my favorite team name if we're being honest. And Pen 5 along with hanging around, rounding out that top 5. But then it came to our last trip over onto Storm Point, and if there was an example of consistency on Storm Point, it was the contest between boys and tripods. Neither team looking to back down, except this time they were able to duke it out without having to worry about a third party getting involved. And this time it would be tripods coming out on top, and with everyone heading over towards Mill, it would look like that they wouldn't have to worry about a very long rotation, and with Evolution landing over at Mill, this could be a fantastic way for them to follow up the W. But they would find S2 on their roof, and they were moving with a purpose.
And it's something that Evolution have to have been ready to defend. The fact that they've already lost control of the roof is not a good sign. Maybe they want to bunker up. Maybe they want to share space with S2. But Evolution don't have KP so far, and they're already playing in a corner. It is not good if you're, as we already talked about, the Erase fans aplenty. If you're one of them, this is not where you want to debate.
Carter already able to pick up a knock on to Yazto and doubles down and grabs Vudo. That leaves your Reese last standing for this, but this is your map 1 winner going up against map 2. Now, if you're a Evolution fan, rather unfortunate because S2 just came into their home and evicted them from the lobby.
And as Zone 5 would close in, it was the Tripods who were in the power position, on top of Donut Shop, who were taking cover in the nut building, which would allow them to poke away from a distance at the other teams, and Deeds playing nice and wide, taking space, which would mean when he was joined by Nick and Gent, they would be able to continue taking space, which would inevitably end up forcing Team Smiley and Donut Shop into a fight for second, making it easy for Tripods to third party and take a big W along with 12 KP for a 24-point game. And that ended up putting the Tripods in third, right behind our game 1 and 2 winners, and just about everybody within the top 10 would be within that striking distance with a big game heading off to World's Edge. So when the Tripods went out in 5th with 8 KP, they had to feel pretty good about their progress in the points department. And they, like many teams, would end up getting caught in a crazy endgame fight in the same edge building in Skyhook, and GKS in the best spot of all, ultimate high ground.
Play out, shoutout Prime, use a knockdown shield. And GKS, as they drop, will have to deal with them. Sorcerer can't afford to ignore the right side. Sleepy Panda takes the lead. Over they come, directly onto Shadimus Prime. Do GKS send themselves? 4 squads left. They lose ChaoticMuch's. Shadimus Prime are down. Still in this is Gucky, but they send it right onto GKS, immediately expiring. GKS still have Sorcerer in this. The Graber God himself clutches out the last kill, and GKS take game 4.
And that put GKS in control of their destiny with just 2 games left to play. The Tripods would end up sliding up into second by just 1 point, with S2, Team Smiley, and Evolution rounding out that top 5. And with a 13-point lead heading into our last pair of games, GKS could feel comfortable getting just a handful of points in each of these last games and be feeling A-okay. And we would be off to Geyser for game number 5. Smoke Break got there relatively early, able to fight themselves into a god spot, and it was GKS who would end up going out in 5th. But they would pick up 9 KP along the way as well, so a 13-point game, making it harder for the lobby to try and catch up. Even more so, especially because we would only end up seeing 2 more teams score more points than GKS, being Smoke Break and Purple Slushy. 2 teams that would make it to the top 3, but unfortunately they had been relatively quiet all day before game number 5. But it'd be Smoke Break able to do a fantastic job of not only finishing off Team Smiley, but the duo of Purple Slushy as well, which would be huge for Smoke Break, propelling them up into second. But even with that, they would still be 19 points behind GKS, meaning that realistically, they were just vying for position to get those ever valuable preseason points, because pending a miracle, it was looking like GKS was going to Pro League. And even though they would only end up adding 2 more points in game number 6, the only other 2 teams picking up big points were Gucky and Boys with 12 and 15 KP respectively, with the second and first place finish as well. But both of them were in the bottom 10 heading into game 6, so while it would help move them up the leaderboard, it really wouldn't do much as far as the overall result, which would mean that it would be GKS qualifying for the second Pro League spot in NA. Which in reality is just so fitting after last week seeing E8 qualify for Pro League that we see a former E8 player in Chaotic also able to qualify with his new team. It's poetry in motion. Which just leaves us with 2 weeks left of Pro League qualifier action and plenty of heavy-hitting teams still in the hunt. Teams like Redeem, Tripods, Drop In Gaming, S2, and plenty more. So let me know who you think is going to qualify for Pro League this weekend down in those comments below. And if it's your first time through over here on YouTube, what it do? I'm your boy Q, and I cover a lot of esports over here on the channel, including ALGS, breaking down all the action with videos just like this. So if you're looking for a good place to keep up with every region every week, make sure you're checking down below to make sure that you're subscribed and turning those notifications on. So we catch y'all back over here for the next one, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard, all right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.